Can you smell it in the air, ladies and gentlemen? That's not moof milk you're smelling. That's mod management in the air. And today we got some people over at Capital Games to talk about the incoming mod management 2.0 update. Why don't you guys go ahead, introduce who you are, and let's get the show on the road.
Hi, my name is Scott. I'm a game designer. I've done a lot of character work and system work for the game, and I was part of the team working on the mod recommendations and update.
And Brandon Shield, another game designer. Done a lot of feature work design, also worked on some of the territory battles and a couple of characters here.
Thank you for coming on today. Now, there's going to be several videos out there by other YouTubers and other outlets out there talking about mod management, but the first topic we're going to talk about on this channel today is the mod recommendations. And I kind of became aware that not everyone uses mods. It's something we take for granted, end game players, but a lot of people don't use mods. So why don't you tell me more about what's this whole new recommended mod feature, and what is it supposed to offer for players?
So the mod recommendation system is like you said, it's specifically designed to address those players that maybe haven't started messing with mods yet, or experimenting, or even necessarily know exactly how they work. The kind of the core of how it works is that each character will have an outline of mods at a high level that are recommended to. Primarily aimed at talking about the set bonuses that are recommended to them, but it has a process for walking through the primary stats and secondaries as well to try and recommend a set that should be good for the character.
And like you said, there's some players that weren't using mods that frequently, and we felt like part of the reason that is it had a huge barrier to entry. It's a little bit complex, so unless you're a really advanced strategist.
So let's start getting to more details now that we have the overview. How are we going to be able to view these recommendations? Is it going to be kind of similar to what we've been doing before, but with some slight caveats? Can you explain more about the process of how to get to recommended mods and what are we going to be viewing?
Yeah, it's a great question. We have actually split out the mods view into a basic view and an advanced view. The basic view is meant for more novice mods players that are coming into it for the first time, and they have the ability to access these mod recommendations. And then the advanced still has everything that the players used to have, plus a few new bells and whistles.
Yeah, what you're used to seeing now is what you'll see in the advanced view. And the basic view primarily just shows you the mods that are currently equipped on the character and has the section for the mod recommendations and a button to let you go explore that. The recommendation takes as simple a form as just a quick sentence or two on, these stats are important stats to this character, and here's a little bit of information on why. Sometimes they're more flavorful than others if it's kind of straightforward. And sometimes it goes into more detail if it's not exactly obvious why this character cares about particular stats.
And that button that Scott mentioned, the info button will allow you to drill down into a little bit about the details of the mod recommendations beyond just which sets it's suggesting, down to what primary stats it's suggesting per mod slot, or which secondaries are valuable for this character.
Let's say I want to use the recommended mod feature that we have here. I'm kind of guessing, I'm assuming here that if I'm going to press recommended mods, it's not going to go look for mods that are already attached to other characters. It's only going to look for mods that are not currently assigned to characters, mods that are just kind of sitting in my inventory. Can you explain what mods it's looking for when I click on that recommended mod feature?
Yeah, that's the default behavior when you tap on auto assign or on an individual mod slot, even to use the recommended mods from basic view. It's going to grab all the mods that aren't on your characters yet, and then it's going to look for the best recommended set based on the recommendation, and then after that, primary stat, and secondaries after that. So if you have multiple of the same set, then it's going to try to make a preference toward the primary stat that we're also recommending, or the secondaries.
It is an option in there if you want to have it also look at the mods that are currently equipped with other characters. It'd be a pretty awful experience if the first time you use this, it yanked a bunch of mods off of all your other characters automatically. And so it doesn't do that unless you specifically ask it to do so. There's a button that enables it to do that.
And then when you use that other option, if you want to expand it to characters that are already having mods on them, you can exclude certain characters. You're like, well, I don't really want to pick those off my raid squad or my PvP squad, so you can tap those.
Right. Hopefully it just gives you the flexibility to let it actually be useful without it constantly feeling like it's either too much or too little for what you need that button to do.
Let's now talk about the big word, recommended. Now, recommended, it's kind of a word up for debate because what one person recommends is something else that another person would recommend, and recommended for one event might be completely different than another type event in the game. Why don't you kind of talk more about what is recommended, what's part of the algorithm for when it determines what is going to go on the recommended mod selection for a specific character?
There's a lot of conversation on exactly how recommended works. There was a point we said, okay, look, the thing we're trying to solve is people, being intimidated by mods, not using them, not understanding whatever. There was a point we made the joke that it could almost, this is a joke, it could recommend them completely at random and it would still be better than them not using it. We did our due diligence, something we're pretty happy with in terms of setting a good foundation for recommendations. Actually, okay, here's a great example, right? There's at least one of the characters who we know that the really expert players who really know what they're doing in terms of the metagame and everything, they tend to run that character on a team that has, say, a character who uses Tenacity up. We realize that, well, this character actually does care about Tenacity because they're really easily disrupted and they really get shut down if you can stick, a daze or a stun or something. But the player who needs this system doesn't necessarily know that, oh, I'm probably going to be running this with someone who runs Tenacity up, and so I don't need to boost their Tenacity. And so we looked at it and said, well, the important information for them to get here is this character cares about Tenacity. Mods are one way of solving that. Later, when they're a more expert player and they're like, oh, hey, I can put this on this team with this guy with Tenacity up, they can have the eureka moment of, oh, I probably don't need Tenacity mods anymore. I can pick something stronger. That like, I have that base covered now. I shouldn't be telling you to equip, all these mods that help against the meta that's not actually the meta you're facing. So better to give you a more general high-level recommendation of these stats are generally effective on this character. You probably care about them. Mods are a way to do that.
Say, Adam, maybe you can give me an example of how it would walk you through. I have two characters here. Let's say I want to mod up my old Ben, who's a tank, who's good at shutting down the enemy team, needs high potency, probably some good protection to keep the team protected. And let's say, let's say I had, maybe General Grievous, because maybe hopefully one day he gets reworked, he could be a good attacker, and I want to put recommended mods on him with your feature. What exactly is the algorithm going to tell me when it's giving me recommended mods, and give me an example of what it might recommend to put on those characters, assuming I have a decent amount of mods in my inventory?
As you might imagine, this is something else we went back and forth a lot. How does this set the hierarchy of what you should care about, right? How does it determine what the most important stat to look for is, or how to prioritize any part of a mod over any other? We eventually settled on it. Generally, it looks for sets first, then looks at the primaries, then looks at the secondaries, and they're basically, the character has kind of a prioritized list of stats for each one of those, with the exception of the sets. The sets, it's looking for specific sets to fill out a complete page. The reason why we decided to go on that, to give some context, is a couple things. One, we knew that we were going to be going across the board and doing some rebalances on the sets to try and make them more competitive with each other in the first place. So we knew that this was going to help a good opportunity to service that, since those were going to be the most competitive part. That was one part. The other part was, that's the part of mod that is the most easy to understand, that is the most clearly surfaced to the player. And until you get really high-end mods, actually one of the more influential parts of the power of your mods is the set they're part of, not necessarily the stats on them. Right? That's once you get later in the game is when the points from the stats on the mod itself start outweighing the sets. Like, let's use old Ben for that example there. You're actually right. Like, I believe that his text, I don't remember the exact text, but I believe it does make a call out of his debuffs are extremely powerful, and it's a huge advantage to be able to get them off early. So potency is a really important thing for him to have, a pretty good amount of. It also makes acknowledgement in the case of, hey, he's a tank and his job is to help mitigate mitigate damage for the party. It'll be things like protection and whatnot. And I believe I think it may actually recommend like a defense set or two, which did get tuned up significantly. And you'll notice that's one of the ones that we do a little bit of the under the hood stuff. We tried to make it so that characters that were supposed to be defensive and you were going to be modding them for survivability, if their defense was kind of high enough that it would help their survivability more than health, then it's going to recommend a defense set instead of a health set. The exception being characters who have like really specific stat interactions, like if they get something really special out of having really high health, then they'll recommend health defense.
Part of this reason why I want to talk about this recommended mod situation is because, for example, many of us advanced players, the hierarchy is speed, 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 speed set, speed, and if anything, you get some sort of set of something else. So when it comes to recommended mods, and I mean, speed is so important. In all my arena videos, I always try to even show the speed because it's something people always ask about. How does speed play into this role? Because advanced players, maybe they want to use this feature, but they also want to make sure they're getting enough speed on their characters. So where does speed come in for this calculation for putting a recommended mods on a character?
We definitely acknowledge that speed is really important throughout mods, and we still think it will be with this update. And most of the recommendations for a lot of the characters are going to involve some sort of speed secondary stat being close to the top of that recommendations list. But the cool thing is, since you can have up to 4 secondaries, then it's going to prioritize, okay, what are the next 3 most important secondaries to have on a given character?
Any mod that has like speed and also one of the other recommended secondaries is probably going to be close to the top of the list of the ones that gets recommended. We do recognize speed is probably always going to be important in terms of the meta or whatever else. But our goal is trying to bring other ones to be a little bit more competitive. So the way I was trying to phrase it as, like, I didn't want players to feel like there was only one success state as far as secondary stats came, right? Like, I didn't want it to be like, well, this doesn't have speed, therefore it's a piece of crap. Hopefully the goal will be to say, well, I didn't get speed, but this other stat is actually really good now, or I got enough of it, and hopefully that there's a success state besides I got speed rank it.
And I guess kind of the last question is, this whole feature is definitely designed for people who are just scared of mods or just touching it for the first time. Do you expect, or do you maybe even encourage maybe endgame players like myself to maybe use this? I mean, the one reason I see myself doing this is I just don't maybe feel like taking the time to go through my mods and manually find stuff, so I'll trust the system and put it on. Is there an argument that you guys maybe want to put out there that endgame players should maybe look at recommended mods a bit more often?
I personally, I'd say yes. I mean, I don't think there's anywhere where it steers you wrong, you know, so.
Yeah, and if they disagree, I think that's a cool, like, strategy moment. Like, oh, okay, well, the game's telling me Tenacity is really valuable on Sith Trooper, for instance, and maybe they totally agree, but disagree, and they think, oh, well, I'm still going to stick to, you know, defense and health. Maybe I'll keep an eye out for Tenacity on my primary, secondary slots, and maybe that's a helpful thing for some players out there.
Yeah, no, I think there's a couple of like great situations where like an elder player could maybe try using one of these, right? One might be like, maybe it's a character that you only just recently started messing with. You haven't really started, you know, like tinkering with them and putting in the team yet. Starting with what the mod set recommends might be just an easy way to just get some mods on the table. You can start messing with them, right? It gives you a baseline you can start comparing against. Maybe you go run a couple battles, you know, with the recommended set and be like, well, how does this actually feel? And that gives you a starting point to modify them, which might make it a lot less tedious to get a new character off the ground mod-wise. Instead of starting from nothing, you can start from a baseline that's probably fine and tune up from there. It is okay if the best thing that your piece of content does for a person is for them to outgrow it. That is actually okay. And so if there comes a point when a player looks at this and says, these recommendations aren't actually, you know, great for me anymore, I know I can do better than this, that's still okay, right? That was still a growth moment and a cool experience to be, I have outgrown, you know, what the game is setting as the baseline.
When can we expect this feature to start rolling out? Because let me tell you, my comments, I keep seeing it. Where is the mod management update? So can you give us maybe a rough idea on when we can expect this update to hit Galaxy of Heroes?
Soon. We're doing a lot of due diligence in this one to try and make sure that it comes in, because obviously the stuff we're messing with now touches a lot of different systems, and so we're trying to be careful.
Well, guys, thank you so much for taking the time to talk about mod recommendations. Be on the lookout. As I said, there's a lot of topics with Mod Management 2.0, and I'm guessing you guys will be going on some other channels and other media outlets out there to talk more about what Mod Management 2.0 is going to offer. Well, stay tuned, guys. We'll see this update hopefully sometime in the near future. Let me know down below, what are you thinking of the recommended mod feature and all those lovely thoughts. And if you did enjoy the video, go ahead, leave me a like, comment down below, and subscribe so you're not missing a thing. And until the next video.
Party Richter, down, 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 down. Party Richter, son of a bitch. Party Richter, down, down, down.